First and foremost, before I even say anything, this is not the set you guys are familiar with every other week. Packed up shop. I'm on vacation, technically.
Yeah.
I'm on vacation, and I said, you know what? I'm going on vacation down to see the boys in Wyoming. Let's do a podcast with Dan. So this is technically my day off, but I brought the whole studio with. But we did it just for you, Mr. Dan Adams. I'm pumped to have you on. For those who don't know, which you should know, Dan Adams is an absolute legend of the snowmobile industry. Slednex won what started it all for the film side of snowmobiling.
Yeah.
You were one of them. You were one of the OGs, and we'll for sure hit on that. As you know, I'm a huge sled film fan, and Slednex is where it all started for me. But welcome, Dan.
Yeah,
pumped to have you, buddy.
Thanks for having me, bud. Yeah, it's been. I've been watching a bunch of them. I actually just got done watching Sayan's and yours podcast, and it was really cool. And Sayan had a lot of awesome things to say, and just huge props to Sayan and SS Free Ride for what he has done. It's proof positive for anybody that's out there, and I'm sure we'll talk about it. But you know, you want to know like how to get here,
right?
You know, follow the ingredients that are laid out in front of you. And Sayan Skinner of all people, man, the dude has just put his freaking head down, and he has just put in the work, and you know, he's loving it now. He really is. He's got a killer clientele. He's got a great program, and I'm really, really proud of him to see him, become the man that he has and become the rider. And it goes without saying with both of those things, good family, good, just everything about him. He is, one of the leaders out there.
The cool thing is too, you guys are if you're looking at a map, you're right down the road from each other.
We really are. Yeah.
And you're doing a very similar, you're working a very similar career path.
Sure. Yeah.
But the cool part is you guys don't necessarily compete with one another.
Yeah.
You found your separate lanes. You still are teaching people how to ride in two different styles.
Yep.
And with a totally different experience, and it works well.
Yeah.
And you're 40 minutes away from each other.
Yep.
In the same mountain range, just a little further down the road.
Yep. Some days when he's rocking the twins, I can hear him.
Yeah. You can hear those from a mile away.
You really can.
But yeah, Dan, I really want to, I'm going to learn a lot here actually, because I know you from, 2014, 15 is when we first met, when I was living down here for a season. And I knew of you from Slednex and 519s, but back to like the roots of you. Are you from Wyoming originally?
Yep.
So you were blessed with this backyard.
Yep. Born in Jackson. Mm-hmm. My parents were killer story, right? And backing way up, my dad was from Arlington, Virginia. My mom was from Long Beach, California. They met up in Teton Park and fell in love with the area. And this is what they called home. So my brother and I, pretty blessed to be born and raised in an area like this. Most people come here and they just, they see the Tetons, they see the mountain ranges, they see all of it, that I have just become, I'm so complacent to the whole dang thing. Yeah. I just look at all of it. I'm like, yeah, it's cool. It's whatever. And people are like, no, dude, you live in a pretty insane spot. And growing up here was pretty fascinating. So,
it's easy to get desensitized to with anything. I get the same way when I go to Canada. I'm like, I just saw Turcotte flip for the 15th time, this week.
Yeah.
And then I pull myself away and I go, I just saw Turcotte flip for the 15th time this week.
Kind of got to check yourself.
It's insane.
Yeah.
But same thing with anywhere we travel. Coming from the Midwest myself, it's just fun traveling these different mountain ranges. They're all the mountains at the end of the day, but there's so much to differentiate between these different ranges.
Yeah.
So coming down here, I love it. It's just totally different style of riding that you guys have, and what you can teach here can go anywhere. You can implement that anywhere, but you have such an awesome playground here to work with.
We really do. And something that I think is, and it's very similar in a lot of mountain ranges, but what we do deal with here a lot is, avalanches and avalanche danger. The entire Wyoming range is so volatile. There are so many areas depending on the season, the snowpack, all of those things, but there are a lot of that. And so as I started into what I was doing, I mean, a huge part of what I have tried to develop as a skill set, not only for my own riding and for my own safety with the people that I ride with, but really understanding the definition of avalanche safety and just being able to put that out there and help people continue to network and just the training is one thing, knowing about it, implementing it, having those conversations at the trailhead, all of those different things. And that's been a big push throughout most of my career.
Yeah, my first kind of eye-opening avalanche training was with you.
Yeah.
And it just sparked a fire for me. Wanted to learn more. I wanted to educate myself, my friends, everything. And that's what I've always admired about your program is, I can drive by here passing through town and 8, 9 in the morning, you're out here burying beacons with a bunch of people who have maybe this is their first, second time in the mountains. But the fact that that's your first priority before you guys even touch the snow is awesome. I mean, how much effort you guys put into it, that little bit of training, even though in the grand scheme of things, there's a lot more you can learn, but having that bit of knowledge and understanding how to locate a beacon, how to use a probe, how to deploy a probe even.
Yeah.
That's your number one concern, which is great to see.
Yeah, we're involved in a sport that there's so much of what we do that is on an individual basis. You want to get better, you're going to put in the time. You all of those things. You want to do a hop over, well, you're going to go do one because you're going to put in the time, the effort, and then what you're going to do off the snow to train so that you actually have the physical capabilities to do some of this stuff. Right. It's not just technique. But when it comes to being in an avalanche, it's about the other people that are with you. You know what I mean? You can pull an airbag, you can get lucky, you can hang onto a limb. There's a lot of things that could happen, tons of variables, but at the end of the day, you go into the snow and it's about your crew.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people, they go out there sort of with this sort of selfish behavior of, well, whatever, it's not going to happen to me. You know what I say is, look at the term selfishness and be selfish that you want to go home because you have people that you care about. You have people that love you and that you want to go home and you have a family and you want to keep doing this year after year. So that selfishness is what gets me to check myself and say, hey, you know what? We haven't looked at the forecast. We haven't gone over our gear. I don't know you. Or even if I've known you guys and we've been riding together for the last 10 years. And guess what? Based on the forecast, we are going to do a quick little beacon check. We are going to make sure that our equipment is all in good shape, those types of things. It's so simple, man.
Yeah.
I mean, ask anybody.
5-10 minutes.
I mean, ask any race car driver they do a pre-check. They do a safety inspection. They all do, right? Any pilot, anybody, you fly helis, my God, dude. All of that stuff. There's so many things that you do that are just, it's a constant, it's common. They just look at it. And what snowmobilers do when it's blue sky, there's 2 feet of POW, the 850 is ready to jam, and they just forget all of that. It's not going to happen to me, and let's go, GoPro on, brain off, and boom, we see those issues.
Yeah. Well, you and I could talk on avalanche safety all day, which is a good thing to talk about. And then you have also, unfortunately and fortunately, been in some serious, avalanche scenarios.
We have.
Which have opened your eyes, your team. I know you and your kind of lead guide, Blair Man, had an incident years ago. It's an unfortunate way to kind of ignite that fire to want to learn more.
Yeah.
And we're seeing that too often now.
Absolutely.
That's the reason guys all of a sudden get into avalanche training.
It's so true.
Is they had an incident or they had a close call.
Yeah.
Rather than, like you just said, that 5-10 minutes even in the parking lot, even if it's not a class, learning from somebody who is level 1 or something, right?
Yep.
And listening to them, and then finally, next season going and booking a class.
That's right.
But that little 5 to 10 minutes can make a world of difference.
Yeah. Yeah, and the more you understand the riding group that you have, what makes that great is the confidence that you have once you get into the backcountry, the things that you are, as you get better and you start to really challenge yourself, because I know we're going to talk about what makes up your best day of riding and what those things look like. And there's not one part of you and I that don't think that those days where you're in such crazy terrain, where there's almost this fear of I don't know how I got here. I'm a little nervous about all of this situation that's around me, but I have a crew that's with me that I can guarantee that regardless of these situations that we put ourselves in, that we're going to work together as a team and we're going to get out together. And I feel like when you've got that makes the riding and what you're able to go and do in terms of those challenges throughout your day. Yeah. It just makes it all the more fun.
A little bit less stress.
A little bit less stress, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yep.
So, you know what I bet was very stressful at times, actually? Sled Next 1. I have questions, Dan.
Yeah, let's hear it.
You are on a wedge chassis.
1997, buddy.
Yeah, you can open the hood and sit in there to work on the thing.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they were nice.
And this is shots at all you guys on Instagram going bigger than a lot of kids nowadays are. Huge, almost a flat, massive cornice drops. There's some in Sled Next 1, like Cameron Elliott, there's some re-entry attempts.
Oh, yeah.
On a ZX.
Yeah.
You guys, I revisited that a couple weeks ago for this very reason. And first of all, the intro's great.
Oh, yeah.
You and the Beatles haircut and the big old black shades. But you guys are just test dummies. That's the best way to put it.
For sure.
I look at like Crusty Demons, for example.
That's all we were trying to follow, right?
Yep, right.
I mean, look at the gear we were wearing, Flesh gear.
Yeah, exactly.
First sponsor of Slednex. We're all wearing moto gear, no gaiters, not waterproof. We're freezing, but man, we thought like we look so awesome, right? Yeah.
And those guys were just out there trying to figure out how far can you go on a motorcycle. And then you guys were doing the same thing, but even though, I mean, it's 20, 25 years ago now, Krusty, they still had a bit of a advantage on suspension.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
I mean, you guys were jumping sofas.
Yeah. Yeah. We were hitting so hard that hoods were flying off. Hoods were breaking off hinges.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was some of the bigger hits in those early years that you look back on and go, A, how am I walking? B, why do I keep doing this?
Yeah.
And C, why did I try to even go further next time?
Yeah. I mean, it's just, and what is so crazy, guys, and it would be so fun to do a podcast with Jason Moriarty and with Cameron Elliott, because what's not on film, what we weren't rolling for, because this is when it was film. This is when you had the little tent set up and we were changing.
Blocking light out.
Oh my gosh, it was crazy. All of it. No radios.
Yeah.
Everything was, and you still see guys doing this stuff like, I'm getting ready. And so there was zero communication. And because of some of that, I can remember so many different times when, Cameron would roll up to a lip and we'd see it and he'd be like, hey, don't film this, right? I'm just gonna sample it, just gonna hit it and just see what it looks like. And it'd be the biggest error of the day. And Moriarty's just throwing his hands in the air, like pissed and just, screaming and just everything else. And then, either the lip got, whatever. I mean, we didn't necessarily build much of anything back in those days. It was just natural wind lips and things like that. And then all of a sudden he'd hit it again, but it just wasn't the same, right?
Right.
There was already tracks up the thing. And he'd be like, well, no problem, dude, we'll go hit it again. But what the cameras weren't rolling for, and some of the wildness of Sled Next 1, just that whole time frame for all of us. I'll just put it like this, guys, is what happened on the snow and what happened off the snow was just equally as like, how am I still here?
Yeah. Like
we were just the wildest crew. And I mean, some of the most important people in my life that are still out there. It's funny
it's so funny to me because you're such a reserved and humble guy now, but everybody has to live through that phase of their life, right?
Yeah.
I unfortunately wasn't there for it. I lived through it in the films.
Yeah.
But I love to hear that Dan had a little wild side.
Well, Slednex we spent so much time, just trying to like keep the name, keep the brand, keep like that whole like thing alive. Like there were so many people I think that started that just, I don't know. I think there was just as many people that whether they were jealous because they weren't a part of it, maybe they thought that they started it. There was just so much about it, but we were so filled with just piss and vinegar. Like we were just so willing to protect what it is that we were doing.
Yeah.
That, like I said, I mean, the bar scenes and just what we did, it makes no sense. Like the idea that when we're at Jackson Hole Hill Climbs and I tell everybody, I'm like, I've been up every one of these. It's just with no headlight or tail light.
Yeah.
And I was in like,
like 2 a.m.
Yeah. I was in like Wranglers, and back in those days, I mean, I was like Wranglers and cowboy boots, and we'd be at the top of that thing and just laughing our butts off of, I can't believe we're here right now. But anyway.
Was most of Sled Next 1 filmed in the Teton, Wyoming area?
Yeah, it started at Togety.
Yeah.
And I mean, we basically filmed the thing in, 2.5, 3 weeks. And that's why there's so much of it that is, some of that crusty and just random shots here and there. And then they did an awesome job of like filling that in between the Riverton boys and just some of these other guys when we made tiny little segments out of it. And I think really what it was just, it's just the catalyst, right? It was just the spark plug to just like to everybody else too, because you see what followed between Two Stroke and just, there's a lot of things,
hardcore,
all of
everything.
it, and just everything. And it's just, there's so many riders and so many people to thank that were the building blocks to what I think snowmobiling has become, right?
Yeah.
There's just so much. There's like there's a platform now for so many of us. We had to kind of build it. Right. And whether or not that's what we were looking for, back in 1997, 98, man, you got to be kidding me that you'd think that I ever thought that snowmobiling would be a job, and I'd have a shop and a big factory sponsor, and any of this stuff. I mean, it's taken a ton of work.
Look at this. It's August now, and you have 2023 snowmobiles sitting here.
Yeah, they're coming in.
You've done all right, Dan.
They're coming in.
You've done all right.
I think I got. I might have got Matt Ence's order. This is highly patriotic, and Polaris knows that everything I know and love and stand for is just all black.
Black on black.
But it's fine. I mean, I'm stoked. These are colorways that I don't necessarily like. I don't go in and design, and so when I see them, it's like when Jordan sends me a wrap or something that I just say surprise me.
Yeah.
And so when these pop out, it's kind of fun. You get to kind of be the kid at Christmas type of thing, and that's kind of cool.
Yeah. So that era of riding, was that just completely self-funded? Was there any even form of sponsorship on the table besides like the gear thing you said?
When we got Flesh Gear,
the manufacturers, not even the manufacturers, your local sled shop, was there anything like, because you guys had to have been breaking stuff every day.
All the time.
Like,
every time.
I bet skids were folding, trailing, because you had trailing arms.
Oh yeah.
Those things were probably just
breaking parts, breaking shocks left and right. Like I said, hoods flying off of the snowmobiles, gauges popping off. Like there was just, I mean, and it was so fun to take that to a local dealer. You take it in, and the guy's got his cigarette, and he puts it down, and you can just see him. He's just like, oh no, it was like a once a week thing. And yet, what we needed, the guy's like, this makes no sense. We needed part sleds. We needed the sled that was like way out in the back.
Yeah. Nobody had seen anything getting that thrashed at that point.
No, and we continued that, man. I mean, and sleds have certainly gotten better, but man, all through Sled Next, through those stages. I mean, everybody that was starting to do it. I mean, that was kind of the fun. And like, I think there was a lot of popularity with that too, that there were so many people that were so willing to push the envelope, not unlike Krusty, where it was like bikes are getting damaged, sleds were getting messed up. Yeah. And people were getting messed up too. Like I paid some pretty big dues to snowmobiling. I've really screwed myself up a number of different times. I've had, 5 hospitalized concussions. I broke my back. It's funny to say that like one of my worst injuries ever, and those that were there would remember that I bruised my heels over jumping at a freestyle event, and I landed it perfect, just landed on the sled. But I landed so hard standing up that I put my foot imprints into the running boards.
Oh man.
And I remember hitting so hard that I hit my jaw piece on the crossbar of the handlebars, fully strapped helmet and everything else. Didn't cut me or anything, but helmet just came sailing right off.
What year was this?
So, it's funny. I was riding an Articat F7 in that time frame. So a red Articat F7, probably 2005, maybe somewhere in there. Yeah. Because I started riding for Polaris 2007, 8-ish, right in there.
The 03 F7 was the fastest one.
Oh man! So I had a race mod like 440. I had an F7. Did it have a Black Magic 700 or something?
I
can remember those things. Yeah,
those were cool. Yeah, those were cool.
Well, there's a time there where it was like between Brant, like all of us were on cats, right? There was a time there with the M series of snowmobiles that
was a revolutionary
exactly.
platform.
Those were exactly, and you got to give it up to them from them, because it was like from there between what Skidoo has done and what everybody else. I mean, there were some models of snowmobiles back in the day that I think everybody had to just, give props to that. That thing was a step in the right direction, and here we are today. So
I was watching, probably Sled Next 7 with Brant, and he was talking about going to climb this big chute, and it was nothing. It was like something we'd use to access nowadays to get to the next bowl, right? But at the time, it was huge, and he was talking about this mod sled, and he's going to hit the nitrous. You remember this at all?
Yeah.
And it's like this stretched out F7. It might have been before the M's came out, because there was no big long tracks out there. I mean, there was like the 1M or whatever, that tank.
Yep.
And that was like the big mountain sled. And it was like a 153 with the 13.5-inch wide track on it, just cutting through everything. And looking at the timeline, that's really not that long ago.
No.
And how fast things have evolved.
It really has, yes.
The last 5 years, I think, honestly, since, like the Pro chassis and everything, that's when things just started going fast.
Well, you'd mentioned 2014 when we kind of, crossed paths, and it's like that's a pro RMK
Yeah.
during that time frame.
Which sounds like decades ago now.
It does, right? And we start looking at from then, and we go the other direction of just like what was in play before we got to the pro. And that's like now looking at the pro. I remember the day that I got to ride a pro RMK. I was in Daniel Summit and getting to go, and we would have never called it a hop over then. It was just like, just like a transition change from left to right or whatever.
Right.
And I can remember calling Chris and being like, are you effing kidding me, dude? This thing. And he's like, I know, right? Like both of us just having this full geek out moment that we had just hit the absolute like pinnacle. Like this is it. It's going to plateau from here. And I look back at that thing now and it's like, holy smokes. Like that was
feels like
literally
a tank now.
Just as much of a hide to bed couch as the others in comparison to what we're doing now. And so you kids that are out there, 17, 18, and your dads have done really, really well in your first snowmobile. And I shouldn't say it that way. There are some of you that are working your butts off. But for the most part, you see these guys that come in here and their first sled is a Matrix Slash, you know what I mean? And they're just like, yeah, is this cool? And like, yes, it is very cool.
Yeah. You should go ride something with like zip ties holding the hood on.
That's right. Yeah. Just any of those old chassis things. I mean, we did that for that, for that climb backcountry team ride years ago. And it was so much fun. And all of us, I mean, every one of us, I mean, we all had to check ourselves.
Just humbled.
Current riding style. Nope.
Yeah.
You got to go the other way, man.
Yeah.
It was crazy to get on some of that old stuff. So
I think Ross and I were talking about that a while ago. Like this, for example, right? A 2023 Matrix Slash coming a boost, a 900, all these cool things. At what point, it's hard to believe there's a point 10, 15 years from now when you'll get on one of those and you won't think it's as capable. You'll think it's like a relic.
yeah.
Because, I mean, we are hitting a point now where we're able to do all these incredible maneuvers and get to these incredible locations that we couldn't if we go 10 years back.
That's
even.
right. Yeah.
So I'm wondering if we do hit a point where these still might be like pretty rad 10 years from now.
I hope so.
As a used sled.
Yeah.
It's hard to believe we can continue to raise the bar that much further, that this thing is just like an old Rev sitting behind somebody's shop, right?
Yeah. And we can think that all we want. And there's probably some engineer that's going to watch this and he's like, oh, if you guys only knew.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, they just sit and smile. Like they're so bored of this thing. Like they're tired of looking at it. And we'll see. You know, I mean, all OEMs, I mean, we put the call out. Like the riders are ready.
Yeah.
Like we continually put ourselves into these spots where we are ready to adapt to the changes and everything else that you guys as builders are ready to do it. Because the backcountry, I mean, think about it. It's just like this endless canvas of like what we can and can't do.
Yeah.
And like you had said from 10 years ago, there's terrain that we didn't even look at because it wasn't possible.
Yeah. It wasn't even on our, well, it just, you're like, no, we're going to spend the next month out here if we try to go there.
Just our last spring ride that we had together with Sane and everything else. I mean, look at that terrain that we're in. And it's terrain that we're in there and we're actually pretty dang comfortable. I can tell you that 10 years ago, like, and when Sled Neck started, guys, I mean, it wasn't about tree riding at all. I mean, it wasn't even opposite foot forward. It wasn't any of those things. I mean, honestly, and I'd say this to anybody, it was like the only reason I even owned a sled was to see how far I could huck the thing.
Yeah.
I mean, that's all I was.
Yeah.
I mean, powder turns, neutral position, barely standing up on most of that stuff. I mean, that was when the
10-inch bar risers.
You guys remember? Yeah, it was huge bar risers and
everything Power Mad made in the accessory book.
I even squeezed the old brake and I was like, man, I was a stud back in the day because that thing would just wear me out.
The colored bar end hooks.
Yes.
You get every different color. You get the different colored snow flap.
Oh, big
I remember
time.
the accessory catalog, early 2000s. I dug up a Cat one that I still had.
Yeah, nice.
Like 03. And they had like the running board insert grips. They were like red, purple, yellow.
Yes.
And they had the snow flap, the bar pad, and they had all these just quick, easy takeoff pieces that
So
they had in
perfect.
like 4 color options.
Oh, yeah.
And the grills for the vents.
That's right.
You could get those in different colors.
Absolutely.
And you just see these guys bombing around and like they bought everything in that
Oh, yeah.
color.
And guaranteed they had a leather jacket that matched all of that.
Yes.
So those are the ones we're still looking for. by the way.
I know. Those things are becoming cool again.
They are cool.
I know. I need to find one. That might be my Heyday's purchase this year.
I have a turquoise jacket that I had a guy from Canada years ago bring to me, and it is a relic, and it is so awesome. It's
old
got
Polaris
the,
jacket,
Oh yeah,
or-
it's got the zip up, but then once it's zipped up, it's got like this tapered like closure on it, and it's unreal. It's teal.
Yeah.
Oh, it's insane, dude.
I might have to, that might be my, 10, 11 p.m. Heyday's wandering around the swaps.
That's what we got to look for.
I might need to find a clean old jacket to bust out just for like plowing the driveway, you know?
Absolutely.
And stunting too.
Oh, you put it on and you just immediately are like, you know what?
I'm better than you in the nicest way possible.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. So what was the point where you thought, hey, I can make this into a career? Because you went from hucking yourself, like you said, bringing these sleds into the shop, broken, just pushing the limits to where you are today. And I know there's a lot of steps in between here and there, clearly.
Yeah.
You started doing a little competing. You did some freestyle shows, you were saying.
Yep.
Busted your body up in that. And then where did you see like the opportunity? Was something presented to you, or did you strictly just hustle and see a missing link in the industry?
So at the same time that, like, we'll go back. So Sledneck started 1997, 1998 is when they released the film. So everybody thinks that it started in essentially the season of 97. We go forward, Sledneck's 1, 2, we kind of get through there. But as we got to Y2K, right, to the 2000s, during that time frame, we had gotten an opportunity to be a part of the first nationally televised freestyle show ever. And it was at the Gravity Games. It was in Mammoth. It was awesome. Mm-hmm. Jay Quinlan won. I took second. Cameron Elliott took third.
How do I not know about this?
Yeah, it was such a sweet freaking event, man. And the tapes that I'll have to show you, and they are VHS.
Yes.
And those of you that are wondering, the answer is yes. I do have an original copy of Sledneck's 1 VHS still in the cellophane. Oh yeah. I think I might have a couple of them. So someday,
frame that, put it on the wall.
Someday, yeah, and I should put something together. And if Moyardi, if you're ever watching this, and I'm sure that's hard to believe that I did save one, but I did, partner, and I saved it before they changed the song, because we did get kind of rallied about that. And
I bet.
The original song, there's just like the intro to that. Those of you that have watched the original and not one that you've bought on DVD now, where the song has been changed, the original is just epic. I mean, it's just the start of those things.
Yeah.
But turning what I was doing into a career. So at the same time, guys, as I am kind of doing this stuff on snowmobiles, I'm a snowboarder as well. And my history with that is all through high school, coming out of high school. I was on the World Cup tour for a little while. I was on the American snowboard tour. I was doing border cross. I was doing half pipe. I was racing. I was doing all kinds of different events. My parents, my family were a big part of starting the Jackson Hole snowboard team. So throughout my, years in high school and things like that, that's just what I was eat, sleep, and breathe. I mean, I wasn't riding a snowmobile. I didn't own or operate a snowmobile with any real reason until I was like 19, 20 years old. And so I was a snowboarder, and that's what I was doing. And I got offered a coaching position through the very snowboard club that I had been a part of. And so I started coaching there, and this is the time frame when I started coaching Travis Rice. So I coached Travis for 4 years, which, if you guys have seen that short film that Polaris helped put together, it was called Convergence, of Travis and I kind of reuniting and just careers kind of going parallel for a long time there. It was a lot of fun, but nevertheless, it was in my blood, man. I had kind of known that I liked coaching. I liked when I'd see somebody that just wasn't doing what I knew they could do, and they just needed a couple pointers here and there. And so when I really started to realize that, I think that was already sort of setting the stage for what would later become, me starting Next Level. But while I was freestyling, this is in a time frame when, it wasn't X Games. It wasn't like these huge, to win first place was really the way we'd make money for that was, people would just kind of throw money into a pot type of a thing. A freestyle event would be, West Yellowstone, and at the end of the snowcross race, they would kind of build up the finish line jump. And for those of you that don't know that, the reason why they call, Chris Big Air Brandt is Chris was given that name. He was a snowcross racer, and he joined and entered into this freestyle event that I was at. Heath Frisbee was at it with riding a pro, not a pro, but an RMK, like 136, dark blue hood. You remember that thing, 1998. And he had blue hair, by the way.
That checks out.
Oh yeah, so checks out. But Brent was, the jump was really nothing special, but Chris was hitting it so hard, everybody, that he was missing the landing completely. And he was landing so far out into the flats that his hood was just like flying off the snowcross sled. And hence became Big Air Morant from that. I mean, he's done a lot of super insane things since then, but those were all just it wasn't really a way to make money. Like there was really no way to fund what we were doing, right? So fast forward until till this like 2008 timeframe, and just riding sleds, working with companies, trying my best to like get sponsored. Remember, social media is not really that's not what we're doing. We're not thinking of any of that. In fact, the biggest things that you could do to impress your sponsors or to go out and go look for those things would be like, a picture in a magazine or an article, to get a cover of a magazine. Oh man, the Sledheads and Snow Est magazine covers that I have, that thank God that I saved or my mom saved or one of us. I mean, there's a lot of cool articles and just things like that. And nowadays it's just put a post out and you know what I mean? There's just so many other ways to just, to kind of feed your own story of like what you're doing. Back in the day, it was always like sort of a delayed, response to anything you did. Like, I can't wait for this movie to come out. I think I'm going to have a 6 segment, or I can't wait for this article to come out. I think I'm going to have the cover shot or whatever it was. Yeah. We didn't have this like direct way of putting it into everybody's faces.
Sometimes you had to physically mail the pictures in.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And just everything back in the day, we didn't have, we didn't have this, we didn't have those capabilities. I mean, I still remember the Razor flip phone or the Nokias and all those things. And
I remember photo submissions being literal photo submissions.
Absolutely.
Not email.
That's right.
Like early 2000s, like 2001, 2, 3.
Yep.
Sending stuff in via mail.
Yep.
And that's, you guys were grinding. The social media thing is a bit of it's a catch-22. It's a bit of a bummer. We're so instant now.
That's right.
I miss the anticipation for a film. All winter long, you go not knowing what guys are doing. You see an article, like you say, and you kind of get up to speed on what they've been up to the last 6 months. Yep. And you get the photos of what they're riding this year or something, and you kind of figure out who their sponsors are by what they're wearing. And then it's kind of radio silence for a couple months throughout the winter. Then fall comes around, and you get this big launch. We had a dealership. Let's see, I was really, really into it, like 01 through 07. And I would go to this dealership the day I knew it was being released on slednex.com or something, and go buy the films and go home and like, don't talk to me. I'm watching this 20 times on repeat.
Nice.
And I miss that. You lose that with, you get kind of desensitized to it again. Yep. You see people doing gnarly stuff every day. X Games are a prime example. Summer X Games just happened like last week.
Yeah.
For the first time in my life.
Yeah.
The first time in my life, I didn't realize they happened.
Yeah.
I used to go home from school and watch.
Oh, it was on, right?
Thursday through Sunday.
That
right. Was like Summer X Games and Winter X Games. In January and in July, like my buddies were coming over, all my skateboard buddies, my snowboard buddies, my sled buddies, and we were watching every single event.
Yeah.
And now it's like, like what's Bilko up to? What's Harry Bank doing? He just did a no-handed double flip on his Instagram page.
Yeah.
And you've seen it already.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's all right in your face.
And the event comes around, and it's like, oh, I saw this on TikTok or on Instagram last week.
Yeah,
big whoop.
And I saw the 10-second version, right?
Exactly.
So you got enough to kind of feed you. And I think that's really what it is like the anticipation of a full-blown movie. I mean, you and I talked about this with 509, for instance. It's like going to YouTube and going to webisodes or episodes of it. It's like, it's kind of everyone's attention span, and admittedly done properly. Yeah. I mean, it really is a great way to kind of feed what you need, because the days of, as much as it is, I mean, last great movie I just watched was Top Gun, and I'd watch it 1,000 times over. If you guys haven't seen it, my God, what an amazing movie, and one that was such a requirement to go watch in the theater when, I mean, anyway, when the afterburners kick on and your whole body's shaking and the whole deal is pretty dope. I don't remember if I've ever had a snowmobile film like rattle me that way. I mean, but I get the enthusiasm, and that really was. And I mean, we can remember that time frame too. Like, we loved when the launch of the new movie was coming, and we'd maybe see a sneak peek of like what our segments would look like, all of that stuff. I mean, that's what kept us just going, dude.
Yeah.
That was, so back up to what we were talking about in terms of, turning this into something more.
Sorry, not to hijack. My point there was, I think what you guys were going through at that time, that hustle, played such a role into, making yourself a staple in the industry. There's a reason there was only 5-10 guys that you knew about in this industry, is because they're the ones, yourself, Chris, Quinlan at the time, Frisbee, all those guys in that time frame. They were the ones grinding to push as far as they could and to stay relevant in an era of no social media. It was just magazines and a film once a year. And that played a massive role, I believe, into why you are where you're at today also. But
and
continue. I'd love to hear how this,
well, it's good.
That's what I was getting at.
And truth be told, like from a manufacturer standpoint, I mean, there wasn't a whole lot going on. Although I would tell you guys, so I pushed really hard with Polaris. I know I rode an Arctic Cat for a little while. I started on a Polaris, and went to a Cat when it was like just grinding, trying to find a dealership to help me out. And anyway, just trying to do those things for a few years there during that kind of freestyle time frame. And to be honest with you, a big turning point for me that like really got me to start to identify what it is that I was going to do with the sport of snowmobiling was being injured. Like I realized that, I go out and, so I was sort of the backbone to one of the very first Red Bull sponsored freestyle shows at the rodeo grounds that we have during the Jackson Hole Hill climbs years and years and years ago, including buying the ramp and going all the way out to Reno, picking up the ramp, bringing it here, introducing all of that to this space and helping put some of that stuff together, but then being involved in it. And in practice, we've been hitting ramps all season at 65 feet. We've only got enough snow for one big hit. So we all agree that we're going to push this thing out to 75 feet. And I remember, kind of running in and just practice lapping. And I got Courtney Hungerford hitting the ramp, and it looks like he's going at a set pace. I turn the corner, I come around, I get up onto the turf, and I start heading towards the ramp. And we got a 75 foot from ramp to landing gap, and I fly about 100.
Were you in a Cat?
I was on a Cat when I did that.
Was this the double broken wrists? That wasn't you, was it?
That was year prior.
Okay.
But double
this clip
was
and
unbelievable thing you've ever seen. The kid gets up and does the lane frost.
With broken
wrists.
Just flopping all over.
Terrifying. Yeah. So following season, I have a massive injury. I don't know if I've been the highest at the rodeo grounds in Jackson Hole. I might have some record there, but I was up so high, guys, that my sled was nowhere near me, and I had so much time floating through the air in a really, peculiar spot. Like I have no soft landing. I'm going to the ground, and to be that high in the air, and I could see people running, like they could kind of visualize my trajectory and where I was going to land. And I'm like, this is it. I'm so broken. This is unreal. And when I landed, I really messed up my back and thought I was going to be that kid that, goes to elementary schools and make sure that kids wear their helmets and things like that. It was a terrifying moment in my life. And to have that happen, and then, and that's not just that event. There was multiples involved, but it was really just, there was no money involved with hardly any of this stuff. And I'm like, man, what am I doing? Right. It was just not a really good career decision to keep doing that. So injury kind of pushed me from the freestyle side of things and just really started to focus my efforts into the backcountry. Still love snowmobiling, still do it. I mean, it's why I do it. Right. But that passion, and like I had said, I mean, the way those two sports between snowboarding and then getting into coaching on the snowboard side, and then seeing how I could develop these systems just like I did on snowboarding, and really help people just through the school of hard knocks that had taken me so long to learn how to ride well and develop, this curriculum or these ideas that I would later call. And it was funny when I first started, in 2008, the idea that my wife and I had was the Rocky Mountain Sled School. And I was approached by the state of Wyoming that the moment that I had school in the title of my business, I had to have a authorized curriculum and a faculty and just all this stuff. Yeah. I'm like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm not going to have school.
Yeah.
So at the time, I don't know where Irina was looking at it, and just came up with Next Level Riding Clinics. And it's funny because it became, one of the most used, and I would even say overused, marketing terms of hey, take your blah, blah, blah to the next level. Anyway, the more I say it, it's kind of funny. And I tell Polaris every time they use Next Level, they owe me $1, and that's still holding true. But it's kind of funny because it is true. It's the whole idea of this, what Chris does, what Sayan is doing, what Chris Brown does, what Caleb is now doing is all of these things are just building blocks. So like the idea that you go out and you learn from someone, you're not going to get better on the overnight, but you're going to get some tools to continue to go out and do that. And then it'll be up to you, like what you hope to learn with any of us in the day, days, week, whatever it ends up looking like. You know, you got to put in the effort. Like somebody can show you how to do all these things. And even if it's all stuff that you can adapt to and just really identify well with, it still takes time to perfect it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, people can get on a snowmobile and ride it down the trail. That's pretty simple. It's a pretty balanced, pretty easy machine to kind of operate. But once you start putting it into those off-camber positions and starting to do all these other things, especially nowadays, big thanks to all the youth that's out there in terms of, I got guys that can't side hill, but they want to hop over. And I got guys that, you know what I mean? Like that's their next
Can't
thing.
skip those steps.
Yeah. So you got to earn it. You got to put in the time and you got to really develop all those skill sets before you can move forward. But anyway, it's been a lot of fun, but that was the transition of, you know, just freestyle, breaking my body, everything else. And then just identifying with, you know, this is a business move. It's a way for me to make money. It's a way for me to, obviously it was a great thing for sponsors. You know, I'm bringing a whole bunch of new people into the sport, showing them what I think the best products are. This is what you're going to go out and learn on. So the rental program, and then involving the AVI stuff and like really starting to identify like the dangers that we all face as mountain riders and sort of that thing. So
this started in 08.
Yes.
And then let's see, your injury was freestyle injury.
Oh man. Well, every year.
Yeah. There was a reoccurring.
Yep. It was like 2002 is when we did the gravity game. So 2003, 4, I'm trying to remember. Sledneck 6 is when there's actually footage of me flying off that cat and hurting myself. And so I was out for a bit there. Had to do a lot of physical therapy, get back into it. So 2007 and then 2008 kind of back into there. And it's crazy as I go backwards too. It was like, I don't know how much I learned from any of it because, you know, within some of that stuff, I ended up being, you know, the 9th guy in the world to backflip a snowmobile too. So
that's what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of the timeline here. So you kind of went out with a bang. I'm not saying that's where you went out in your freestyle career, your big hits, but you flipped in 05.
05.
Yeah.
Yep.
With no prior attempts at a flip.
You know what? No prior attempts on a snowmobile at a flip, but what I had been doing summer months and stuff. Snowboarding and wakeboarding, do a lot of wakeboarding, or did a lot of wakeboarding back in those days. And that's really what got my mind right and was able to put that thing down, you know, the first time I tried it.
But it was one and done, right?
It was one and done.
Just check it off the bucket list. That's a pretty cool way to do it. I respect that.
There's been a lot of guys that it didn't happen one and done.
Yeah.
A lot of guys that really paid the price with that, with, you know, well, sleds injury, all number of different things. And so to get, and I would still, I mean, did I have the right tools and did I kind of understand like just basically the whole thing from beginning to end? And I would say that answer is, Was I still nervous? Was it still like, you guys won't believe that while I was like prepping, looking at this wall that I'm getting ready to hit, that I just watched Courtney Hungerford do a flip on, which was really helpful too. You got to watch somebody right in front of you do it.
Yeah.
I'm like thinking about my insurance. I'm like thinking about like, what am I going to do when I total this sled? And, you know, Irina's super mad and just anyway, it was just a lot going through my mind. And then it was just like this, for whatever reason, being able to just put all that on the shelf and just, all right, this is what I got to do.
Yeah.
And just go get it done. And that's how it worked. Yeah.
That clip is so epic from directly behind as you come into the run-in.
Yeah.
It looks huge. I mean, you built a quarter pipe.
Yeah.
That was before people really had them dialed.
Oh yeah. No,
you guys were just,
it was purely the jump that did most of it.
Building a wall.
Yeah. Yep. The angle of it versus the photos of it, John Layshock thankfully took an amazing, you know, clip for clip shot of this thing. There's like 20 something frames of this thing, but you can, if we had it in front of us and we could show the viewers, it'd be fun to just talk about what's happening as I go through this motion.
Yeah.
Because I go into it full commit, which was inevitably what made the whole thing work out. So I committed as I started, which a lot of guys fail at a flip because they get right to the jump itself and then they lose all commitment, and that will turn into a dead sailor and oh my God, look out. But I committed really, really hard as I started, but then you can see me fall out of commitment as I go straight up this wall. And I'm like, this was a huge mistake. What am I doing? And you can watch my head start staring at the hood. And my good buddy Jason Blair is still working for me, friends since we were knee high. He'd painted this really medieval looking skull right on the hood of this thing, and I'm like looking at this hood, going, "This is it." I mean, this is it.
This is foreshadowing.
This is it. This is that's a mirror.
Yeah.
I'm looking at this thing.
Frame 1 is I got this. Frame 6 is holy shit.
Yes, exactly right. So I am staring at this thing, head, visor. You can just look at it, and it's so funny to this day. It's like I'm always telling people, like, if I can see your visor, I know you're looking. Like you're looking at the sled, you're looking down. Always telling people eyes up. Well, I am not eyes up. I am staring at this hood going upside down. And, you know, Blair Man was right there, and he was just like, you would have flown right up over a street light. Like, it was big. Yeah. So I was up in the air, and then out of the corner of my eye, as I'm looking down at the hood, I look and I can see John Layshock taking pics. And I realize now I have perspective. Now I'm like, oh, I have miles of time. I have miles of time, and this thing's actually coming around. Yeah. And I'm like centered on the sled, and I'm like, I mean, it's actually kind of blowing me up right now because it was such a fun, you know, situation. But talk about kind of going through those motions of like halfway through this thing, like I'm not nearly as committed as I was when I started. But
was that on 153?
So that was on a 141 M6.
Yeah, and it was 600.
Big bar riser and the whole deal. Yeah. Yep.
Wow. So what a way to not go out. But I mean, that was kind of probably one of the bigger final hits until you started.
It certainly was. Yeah. It was a fun, I mean, and since then, you know.
That's a hell of a send off.
Yeah. Yeah. So Slednex and then Slednex 12. If I were to think back of like, because I wasn't in all of them, I was in a bunch of them, but I wasn't in every one of them. And there are a lot of guys that I think that made more. I think Brant is almost in every one. There's a lot of these guys that really push and have segments in almost every one of them. But I think Slednex 12 was a segment that I was really, really proud of. Just between the riding, just the caliber of the things that we did, some of the hits that I did in that. I was riding had 2 Boondocker turbos, and one of them was a turboed Assault 146. And there was some fun stuff that we did in that time frame. And obviously that was, you know, already riding for Polaris and getting some support that way, but still Slednex rider back in that time frame. And so Slednex has been just a huge chunk. I got a lot to be thankful of, just for them to, again, like help build the platform that we all got to be a part of. So
it played a role into how you ended up spending years with us.
Yeah.
The 509.
That's right. Yeah.
That was fun. Oh man, I got to think how far into it you were by the time I showed up on the scene. You'd been in there for 3-4 years probably.
Yep. Started as
signature
just a
goggle.
Signature
at that point.
goggle. Yep.
Yeah. Which was cool. I mean, to have your name on a goggle.
It was fun, man.
It's super cool. I mean, everybody needs goggles.
Absolutely.
And the fact that you can tell them, hey, here's my goggle.
I liked it.
Is a cool thing to look back on. And it was fun for me. I mean, I was just like we're talking now. You know, I was a fanboy at heart. I knew all the history. I knew everything you'd done. And then to go out and be able to film with you was super cool. And seeing how much work we had to put into it, because you had an established business at the point that I jumped in. You weren't able to just jump in the truck and be like, screw it, McKinney, we're going for 14 days here. We're going to just sit around, wait for the weather to be perfect. I got a window here, I got a window there, you know, once every other week. And we pulled stuff together, but you know, I wish we would have been able to shoot some more stuff, but I'm also pumped on what we produced, knowing what you had going on in your life. Yeah. You were, you know, supporting your family, everything, and starting this business and then trying to establish it more and more and still taking the time to go film. Yeah. And it was just, you know, I look back on that being one of the most memorable times getting into filming. Yeah. Is some of the stuff we did together. And then what I really enjoyed that really hit home for me is, for those who don't know my story, my first year I lived in Dave McClure's basement, which is just down the road from here, 25 minutes or so. And I filmed here the whole winter. I stayed here from November through April, I think. Yeah. And my down days, Dan would let me tag along when he'd have clinics. Yep. And so I kind of, now looking back on it, knew what you were doing. Like you were hoping, because you knew, man, you had some issues on sleds, McKinney. You're like, I know everybody for that first year. I was struggling. I mean, I was fresh out of the Midwest.
And look at you now, dude.
But I learned so much from you over the years, and I feel like I have one hell of a bill I owe you. I bet I shadowed 8 to 12 of your clinics probably.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the avalanche stuff and everything. It was just a really cool time for me, and I'm stoked that it was able to, you know, do it with hanging out with you, and it meant a lot, and it still does. So it was a cool experience. I'm glad you were part of 509 during that era
me
for
too.
me.
Every one of these companies, man. I mean, I would like to think that, people change, businesses change, the decisions throughout our careers of what we do, none of this stuff. I don't feel like there's ever situations where I'd like to think that the friendship was lost. And I would believe that with, between Kirk, Zach with HMK and Tom and you from 509, like just all of these decisions that over time we make. And, some decisions, more thought out than others, and just the way things go. And I think we all live, learn, grow, all those things. But I can't believe that we're going into year 15, and I'm really excited that you've shadowed that many classes, because just on that spring ride, dude, just right in front of me on a not that awesome slope, just ripping that bow tie right in front of me, that no film, no nothing. And I would tell that.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Remember that was like where it's like you look back and you knew that I saw it, but it's like nobody else saw it, and it was prime, dude.
That
and
was
my
inner moment where I was going to gloat for a second, just because I knew Dan Adams was riding side hill right behind me, and that thing popped out of the snow, and I was like, Dan Adams just watched this.
It's so good.
But I owe all those fundamentals to you guys and Sane. More so to you. Sane would just give me shit, and eventually I'd figure it out. You actually took the time to work. I mean, I ran through the gates with you guys, everything.
Well, there's some of this stuff that, just like anybody else that's out there doing it, like I just started to identify. Here's the thing is, so there are moves that most of us can relate with, and it's because we're familiar with some of it. Mm-hmm. So if you've let your sled, whether you did it intentionally or not, like wheelie over backwards, and you kind of had that feeling, well, you can take that as a building block or a chunk of one of these other things. So the bow tie, for instance, like what we're just talking about, like when you can start to really compartmentalize like little parts of that, you may not know the whole trick yet, or the whole, whatever we're going to call that thing, besides feel awesome, right? Especially when somebody else sees it. You did see that, right? That was awesome. And it wasn't, and it wasn't in this like picture perfect spot by any stretch. I mean, I kind of looked at it and I'm like, oh, ballsy move, dude. And you just got it done, and you kind of
just
back.
Working our way to the next spot.
You just kind of went like, okay, you got anything else, But being able to like take those, and that's why I knew from all the way back from prior to 2008, even back when I was in snowboarding and coaching, everything else was just, I was able to just take fragments of things that I could relate with and could understand, and then put those together. And then as I was learning how to do it, and as I was really starting to say, oh yeah, this is what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. I knew that's what was going to help make me an okay like coach, somebody that could like look at what somebody was doing and provide some assistance, whether it was 1-2 things. Like a lot of times there's so many people out there that are like, well, if I'm an advanced rider, like what does he hope to, like, what can I do and go there? Is going to just be a bunch of standing around? And it's like, I think even the most advanced riders that ever been through here are like, man, I'm so appreciative that I came, because there was actually like 2 or 3 things that were just tiny little steps or moves or whatever it was that really helped. Like, oh yeah, that's exactly what I've been doing, but I didn't really even know that I was doing it.
Exactly.
Once we identify with those things, I mean, riding and what we've really turned it into, it's awesome. It's just a bunch of positions. It's a bunch of steps that we can just make, and it makes it really fun.
Yeah, Dan, I appreciate any form of compliment from you. It's humbling. But you and I were just saying, we did a little pit stop here to cool down off camera, that my biggest claim on that was a stock tunnel Axis I was riding this year. No cut tunnel, no nothing.
Nothing.
Which internally means even more to me.
Well, you make no like assumptions about it. We build snowmobiles like in their cheater sleds. I mean, they really are. Like when I really get into a sled build, and it's, thank God for the Matrix Slash, we're not having to do that. But, pre that, when we were cutting tunnels and carbon skids and added horsepower and all of those things, I mean, yeah, does it make those moves? There's the opportunity there? And the answer is sure. Yeah. Can it be done on a stalker? And you're the one that just, you know what I mean? You just proved that. I mean, you
got to work a hell of a lot harder.
You got to work a lot harder.
Oh
it doesn't just happen. But I mean, that's why I feel like the 146 Matrix Slash, 9R is going to just be this, oh my gosh, right? Yeah. I mean, snowmobiling, not all of snowmobiling, but there is I'd say like the TikTok of snowmobiling is just like turned into like, that's what people want to see. Yep. Like a powder turn. I mean, it's cool. Like that makes people jealous of the snow, but the quick, like, especially in like the gnarly spot too. Like when it's just out in an open deck, I mean, I get it. That's where we learn these things. But when it's in this spot that you're just like, it makes no sense that you're even in there, and you pull one of those moves, that's pretty sweet. So
isn't that funny though? the pow turn, right? It's like whatever on social, but every single person that says that too and just passes through, when they're out there doing the pow turn,
it's the greatest feeling.
it's the greatest part of your day.
Really
Even if you do a sick bow tie somewhere.
Yep.
But if you spend 5 hours of the day just carving fresh pow, you're having the best day ever. But you see it on social, you're like, yeah, good for them.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I wasn't there. Who cares? On to the next one. But if it's you,
yeah,
like,
my deepest day of the year was like the second week of April.
Same.
And it was just the most freak storm. And it was like every GoPro shot that I have and would want to post is completely ruined.
Yeah.
Like it didn't make one turn and all you can hear is just me giggling with just this gummed up screen. And my God, you're right. I mean, it's a pow turn.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to see that. And you know what? I got to experience it and it was over the mountain bar deep and just sleds just coughing for air. They have nothing. And when you get to experience snow like that, I mean, it's what makes me thankful for where I live. And it's also what like obviously greases the wheel for so many people to come here. And like once snowmobiling grabs a hold of you that way, I mean, that's why we have the clientele that we do that's just return. They just can't wait for that next fix.
Yeah. They know what they're signing up for.
Yeah. And that next fix maybe doesn't mean that they're going to go like try a bow tie. That next fix for them might just be, you know, that crazy pow turn like we're talking about that nobody really wants to see, but they want to experience it. So.
Yeah. There's a reoccurring theme here throughout all of this, Dan. We've talked about the beginning, the middle, the gnarly, the party days, the flips, the starting a business. We constantly are referencing social media throughout this. And now, full circle for you, that is a huge platform for you. Yeah. YouTube. Yeah. You're doing a phenomenal job at it.
We appreciate that.
You have Stephen Clark helping you out a lot, who's a great friend of mine and films with 519 all the time, we've all filmed together.
Yeah. Yep.
And you've started an awesome channel and you found your own kind of separate lane within the industry that is informative, yet fun to watch and very professionally done.
Thank you.
And now that has played probably one of the bigger roles in your brand in the last 2 years, I bet.
Absolutely.
The growth has been incredible.
Yeah. I mean, I'd say that to anybody that years ago, 2008, best decision I ever made in terms of snowmobiling was starting Next Level. And then within the last couple of years, second decision ever made was starting a YouTube channel. It was actually Steven's idea. So Steven came to me and said, hey, let's get into this YouTube thing. Let's just, it was funny that the Next Level Riding Clinics, it had its own channel. It had, 200 subscribers, something like that. And I'd post some videos out there from Polaris, some demo tours and some stuff like that. There was some really shady GoPro things and just some silly stuff that was out there. And he's just like, let's just go ahead and use that and let's just continue to grow it. And, because of his insight, because of his, not unlike you, just what you guys see, just your vision, just the film quality, and the idea that, we're going to put in the time, put in the effort and make it something. It's been cool. So that marriage, has been good. We've known each other. I've known Steven since he was 16 years old, back when he worked for like Bully Dog Diesel Performance. And we've known each other for a long, long time and paths have crossed in so many different ways. Great friends with his family, the whole deal. So it's, the program is awesome. And we just really want to continue to grow that. And that's really where I've set my sights. I mean, we talk about social media and the importance of that and everything else. And really what my goal is with social is to just help, use that platform to push this one. And I feel like the direction I'm going with it, I feel like the message that's getting across with what we're doing there. And you and I had this conversation, a couple of days ago, just talking about the sort of the library of things that you have. And I didn't really know that or like start to categorize this stuff as we started, but it's turned into like, there's like one part sort of shop tours and talking about techie stuff or going through product reviews and things like that. And then there's like the how-to segments of it and all of those things. So I feel like there's something in there for everyone. And the amount of compliments, the amount of people that have come up to me at snow shows, just the visibility and the value that people are getting from what we're building there. I've got a few of those that have really, really hit home. Like, this common mistakes video we did a couple years ago. That's just, anyway, it's a lot of fun. And it's stuff that I'm doing here. And with the idea that, because of expense, family, time, distance, all those things, like Next Level is, how many people are continually, how many emails I just got today of just people inquiring about riding clinics. And there's only one of me. There's only so much time throughout our season. I am I am so about the quality of what we do. I'm like the really fine wine in the midst of a lot of the cheap beer. I want it to be, and sometimes this gets me in trouble, but it's like, I want it to be the best experience that these people can have. And so I really limit the amount of people that can come. I really limit the time frame. So when we don't have good snow and I postpone classes, I mean, it happened this last year. We had a fairly, I would say, shallow snow season. And there were segments of February that weren't awesome. Especially for people that, aren't to the level where we can get into some of this really steep, maybe untouched terrain that we can still make it look like from our social and from other people's socials that there's still a lot of snow that's out there. Trying to find snow that is good and can still really challenge people, but is in areas that are more of that intermediate kind of terrain. It was pretty tough. So I end up pushing or postponing classes and things like that. And that's on me. That's just my pickiness so that their experience is the best that they can ever have.
Quality over quantity.
We just keep doing that. So.
Yeah. The YouTube series has been great. I send my friends videos that you put out constantly.
Thank you.
Those top 5 mistakes, those initiating a side hill, just simple things. And the way you break it down, I mean, I've spent a lot of time with you and shadowed some of your clinics, but I still watched a video, and I've been riding for, oh man, this is making me sound old even now. I've been riding for 24 years now.
Yeah.
Oh, ouch. And, 10, 12 of those in the mountains.
Yeah.
And I'll watch one of your new uploads and I'll go, oh shit, I'm guilty of that too. And it'll just, something will click.
Yeah.
But hearing it from somebody with the experience and the way you articulate things and the way you lay out visually also, you guys do such a good job at it that every single time I watch one, even if the years of all these gnarly athletes I'm with, I take something away from it. Prime example, my girlfriend, Hannah, she's been watching all of your stuff and just taking mental notes.
That's
and the big thing for anybody listening is the one that you did when Sane and I were with you.
Yeah.
That hit home is stacking those little wins.
Yeah.
While you're still in your infancy of learning how to ride.
Yeah.
It's not a race. It's just stack every single little win and don't beat yourself up. Just don't get frustrated and accept the fact that you're going to go through years of being humbled by this machine.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we have resources now, like your channel, to watch before, you go out to ride. You're going a big weekend with the boys and you're only on your second year on the sled, you're nervous. You have some great information that can calm your nerves and make some mental notes. I'm waiting for him to load it into these screens on the sleds.
Yeah, no kidding.
Seriously.
Polaris.
Papa Polaris.
Seriously.
Yeah.
Common mistakes video. You just go through the options, boop, and there it is.
You're sitting on there, you're like, man, what am I doing wrong here? And you hit play out in your sled. That's the future. Just saying.
It's a good one.
No, Dan, it's been a blast to watch where it has started and where it has gone.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I mean, the beyond the business, beyond people coming in here and they're like, they can't wait to see the sleds. They can't wait to see the shop. Like the shop has become this it's kind of like a highlight of the trip or whatever it ends up looking like. There's a lot of wins, right? And I'm still stacking these little wins, but the gratification, truthfully, at the end of the day, with all of this stuff, all wrapped up into one thing, getting to hear that what we've done, like what this program has done for the sport of snowmobiling, what I've been able to add to the sport, as a steward of it, as a pioneer of, well, at least elements of snowmobiling. I certainly didn't invent it, but it's like we certainly have figured out ways to make it easier. And as you get older and you want snowmobiling to still be in your life, in your family's life, all those things, and you want snowmobiling to become a sport that you can enjoy, even when, as we fall down, it's a little bit harder for us to get back up again.
Yeah.
That's something that's really been a focus of ours, and that it's not. You can go and I'd certainly like to still think that I've got the skill set and the risk management to go out and really try all this fun stuff, the bow ties and these things. Mm-hmm. But really the focus in what we've done here and what's been the most gratifying is just hearing from those that are truly being able to identify with what it is that we're putting forth, whether it's the channel or it's here at Next Level, and benefit from what it is that we're doing. And that's what's keeping them going. It's getting their wife or their girlfriend into the sport. It's getting their families into the sport. And as a whole, like, I got to tell you guys that beyond the sponsors, beyond the beyond any of it, beyond what rumors that you've heard of all the monies and all the stuff that's out there. It's like the most gratifying thing that I can ever take away, and just wanted to hit that message home with all of you, is that, knowing that what we have done and what we are going to continue to do is a true benefit to the sport of snowmobiling. That's the biggest takeaway that I'd have with all of it.
Yeah, that gave me chills. I'm happy to have experienced some of it with you.
Yeah, it's good.
And humbled. And yeah, well said, Dan. Kind of lastly here, we will wrap up here shortly. The future, okay? There's been a lot happening.
Yeah.
A lot. From the sleds changing to you in parts and having your own line of things, and Next Level being, branded on stuff, and the YouTube channel and the clinics, everything. What are we going to see? You got a 2, 3, 5-year plan? Like, we're going to continue to build that channel and
Absolutely.
Yeah. Good. I got notification on even. So it goes ding, ding. Next Level, upload a new video. I'm on it.
Yeah. You guys, make sure after this, right? Everybody run over there to the YouTube and get on the World Wide Web, to most of you, and click that thing. Yeah. It's funny that people are so scared of subscribing to something, and I get it. I promise you guys, I'm not a cruise line that once you sign up for me, I continue to feed you all these specials. That's not really what it is. You guys just show support by subscribing and hitting the notifications, things like that. I feel like in every episode we do something like that, to where we kind of put this call out to people to do that. And with any growing channel, I think it is important. But beyond that, I mean, I look at everything that we've done and that part of it and where we're going with all of this. Yes, I am still pushing forward. Yes, I still have a ton of momentum. The private classes and where we're going with Next Level, it's been a lot of fun. That it used to be this thing, guys, that every year I would stress like you would not believe of, oh my God, are people going to come to this thing? Am I doing the right thing? And now it's who I get to really upset that they don't get to come for the 3rd year in a row. And I apologize to each and every one of you that it feels like I am maybe ignoring your requests or whatever it looks like. Just know that there are and has been a waiting list on Next Level since prior to us having an actual waiting list that you could sign up for. And it's just continued to be that way. And we're going to try to keep doing it. I'm going to just go as hard as I can until both these legs give out on me. And snowmobiling is a component of me. It's part of my world. It's part of my life. And it's something that I'm very passionate about. And I don't ever plan on losing that. I feel like we're going to just keep doing this, and we'll still keep the channel alive and continuing to grow with that. And I'm really excited for the future.
Love to hear it. Yeah. And on that note, you'll continue to see Dan here and there with us even. I mean,
Absolutely.
Sponsorships are sponsorships. Friendships, that's a whole nother story.
Absolutely.
We've developed a great friendship due to sponsorship.
Yeah, absolutely.
With your time with 509 and your time with Climb Now. It's end of the day, it's just what you're wearing, right? It doesn't change who you are as a person.
Yeah.
So it's fun to do stuff like this. And this last spring, we did a video with you and Sane getting back together.
So much fun, yes.
And we'd love to do that again in the future. So I want that to be a big takeaway, is we appreciate the hell of you guys that support us at 509, the YouTube series, the gear, the podcast, everything. But we appreciate the guys that have been with us, for part of the ride, and they're still relevant in our life. So everybody, appreciate the guys that support everything you do. It's all for the same love of snowmobiling. And
Absolutely.
It's cool that we can put all that aside and just hang out in your shop and chit chat for an hour.
Even though it's like 100 degrees in here.
Yeah, I want to hit on that. If you guys are really looking close at this, I've been fighting back almost like tears of sweat coming down my forehead. I've felt like I've kind of pulsed and tried to hold them back. Yeah. They're just about to roll. It's the first rainstorm all summer here in Wyoming, and the humidity came in fierce like an hour ago.
If we were outside, the mosquitoes would literally pick us up and take us away.
So we're in the shop here sitting in a sauna and 90% humidity through this whole podcast. So thank you for bearing with us. We might have gone a little crazy in the middle there and rambled because we can't think straight because we're sweating.
We were losing our place for a minute there.
Yeah, it's okay.
One more reason why winter can't come soon enough.
No kidding. Yeah. I'm ready. Well, if you guys aren't following Dan, actually you probably aren't now, because the poor guy lost his Instagram.
I have.
It got hacked. It got taken down. It used to be Sledneck Dan.
It was.
It is now.
It is now Next Level Dan. So NXTLVLDAN. Surprising that was available, but
I'm
it was,
surprised
and
too,
I grabbed it.
Makes a lot more sense nowadays.
I can elaborate just for a few seconds here because I think a lot of people did reach out, and I didn't reply to a ton of you about what had happened there. So on March 17th, guys, I posted a video. Many of you that do follow me maybe saw it, where I did a video right here in the shop with that screen behind me, and we were creating an effort to help my wife. So my wife, you guys, she's Russian. She is originally from Ukraine, and she had family, still has family in Ukraine. And I don't think I need to go into too much of that. I think most people know what's happening there. Well, anyway, we decided to put together a fundraiser to donate and to get some monies to those families, not just hers, but to families that were essentially living in a war zone. And so we built that. It was meant to go through our website. Many of you guys partook in that. And what I would tell you, and I haven't told anybody this, so I'd say it right here on this podcast, is that 12 hours prior to my accounts being taken down, the fundraiser that we had put together, it raised about $26,000.
That's awesome.
And I got so many people to thank for that. And the win of all of it, guys, is my account was hacked. The Next Level account actually was hacked, and because I was tied to it, that's kind of how it happened. So the Next Level Facebook account was hacked, and because I'm connected to that, there's a lot of red tape, a lot of things that happened there, but I guess not getting it back, which is why it's now Next Level Dan. I appreciate all of you guys that have now refollowed me and are trying to figure out what the heck happened, but that's really what happened. What I would tell you guys is that based on the fundraiser and what did happen and the things that are real that went through that, we were able to get my wife's cousin and her 3 children from Ukraine into Poland, and then flown from Poland all the way to here. And they now live with my wife's family in the U.S. So I say, you know what, social or whoever you are that took me down or whatever that looks like, I don't necessarily care, because that was a massive success that we were able to do that. And again, to the people that donated, even though you didn't hear back from me, you're hearing it now, that I really, really, really appreciate. And so does my wife and all of her family for helping us get that done. She still has cousins and quite a few people that are still living the horror that we all see on the news. And I would tell you that what we're seeing on the news is really nothing like what's truly happening there. So
another reason the snowmobile community is so awesome.
It's just a crazy, big, kind of silly family. But yeah.
That is awesome to hear. Happy to hear that played out and made it here. I didn't know about that either.
Yeah.
I mean, I knew what was going on. I didn't realize they all were able to relocate here. And that is great to hear.
Yeah.
Gosh, you're good. Sled community, I love you.
Yeah. Really cool, guys. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, give Dan a follow. I know social media isn't everything, but Dan posts some cool stuff.
I'm trying to. Yeah.
And then if you're not already, his YouTube channel is just Next Level.
Just Next Level Riding Clinics.
Riding Clinics. Yep. I mean, I got notifications on that. It's a fun one. And then, of course, shamelessly, subscribe to 509's YouTube channel here.
Absolutely.
We're trying to pump out even more episodes next winter. Last winter, as Dan knows, was a battle. Mother Nature dealt us a tough card.
It was, yeah.
So we're trying to, come in charging this season and put out a lot more episodes for you guys to watch. But also, a little new thing we're going to do right now for this podcast, the reviews go a long way for us. It really helps push this thing. So if you guys are on Apple, if you guys are on Spotify, give us a 5-star review. If you give us a typed out review on Apple, you can actually leave a text review there. We're going to pick a 5-star review to send some goggles over. So appreciate that. And then, of course, if you're watching on YouTube, like, comment, subscribe, and we got more to come. Dan, thank you so much. It's been fun, buddy.
It's been awesome.
We're going to have repeats down the line. Dan, we're going to cross paths again.
Absolutely.
I think people are going to be pretty stoked on this. You told some cool stories, and I think you're going to be requested to be back on.
Cool. Sounds good, man. I appreciate it.
All right, buddy. Well, we'll see you at Heydays already.
Heydays coming up.
All right, pal. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you in a couple weeks.
All right. Cheers.